What's going on, guys? I'm so glad that you're here. This is a 5-part video series on how I worked with a real client on making a commercial recap film for them. It's not necessarily a step-by-step process, but I just want to give you a raw, real insight on what this project looked like for me. I made an entire video on this whole process, and I'm deciding to break it up into 5 parts. Part 3 is why you should be editing in sequences and how this will help you in the long run as well. At this point, I need to go and actually look through all the footage. I'm going to set up a couple different sequences, but I need to go and look through this footage to see what I want to put in the edit. I'll make some mental notes on my thought process through finding and culling through this footage, but it's a long, tedious process that I don't want to make you guys wait on, so I'm going to go ahead and just jump and skip ahead. So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and make some new sequences. New sequence, we're gonna do 4K 16:9 at 23,976, and I'm gonna say recap because that is gonna be the actual sequence of the recap. I told you organization is key. I like to make a sequence bin. Drag and drop right there, and then when you have a bin highlighted, whenever you make a new X, Y, and Z, it's going to go into that bin. So now I need to make another sequence kind of to cull through the footage. Same thing, new file sequence. And I don't know how I want to do this right now, but I'm just going to go ahead and say this one's A cam, and then I'll probably make a B cam and then a drone sequence as well. That way I can keep them all separated. Preferably, I already checked the time code. The time codes are different on each camera. Preferably, I would like to actually make one sequence, throw all the footage if it was correctly shot in the same time code. That way, if camera A was shooting and then camera B picks up right here, it would kind of match up on the timeline. But that's not the case for this project. No worries. That's something you got to deal with as an editor. So I'm probably going to make an individual folder for each camera. That way I can cull, and that way I can pull a little bit quicker and go from there. Real quick, I have my A-cam sequence set up, so I'm going to go to my A-cam folder. I'm going to make sure I'm clicking the top clip, the first clip. I'm going to scroll all the way down, and then I'm going to shift left click, and then I'm just going to drag and drop. And because I started, so I'm getting an error that says, do I want to change the sequence settings or do I want to keep them? I'm just going to keep them. Alright, so also real quick, scrubbing through some of this, you can see that some of this shot was shot in a gamma color profile, and some of it was shot in a log profile. So good thing about red raw is you have the flexibility in post to change that. I'm going to click master, I'm going to go over here, I'm going to click red log film. There we go. Now I prefer actually coloring and editing with the gamma 3 or gamma 4 profile, but I just need to make sure all of it is matched. That way I can go from there. So that's an hour of footage. That is a lot to go through. That's probably my least favorite thing as an editor, is culling through footage, and especially when it's footage that I didn't shoot. I don't know what the good clips are, and so this is actually why I prefer not to edit other people's projects, because of this right here. I think this is one of the most painstaking things about being an editor. But you got to do what you got to do. I'm going to go and cull through all the footage, get it down to the clips that I think are the coolest, sexiest, dopest, whatever, and we're going to go from there. We'll pick it up soon. So the people who shot this are my friends, and they went ahead and did me a favor, and they found the 4 best clips of what the final shootout, is what they called it, was. And so that way I had know exactly which clips to make sure to put in the final recap. These 4 clips have to make it, and then the rest is up to me. So it's just really nice that they went and took the time out, found those 4 clips for me, gave me the file names, and now I can just throw and drag and drop them into the recap. I reset my Premiere Pro timeline. I actually already had this as a preset as a window. What I mean by window is, or like as a workspace, I'm sorry. And so you go Window, Workspaces, and you can see that these are all the ones that come prepackaged with Premiere. And then I actually made one called Cutting, and then I put -JB, and so I click that, and this is where it is. That way you have two different timelines, and then you can actually use two different sequences. So I have my Cole All, basically I have all three cameras in there. I've got V1, V2, V3, A cam, B cam, drone. When I imported all my footage earlier, each camera was filmed at a different frame size and dimension. So a quick fix on how to correct that is make your sequence settings at the appropriate settings that you want, and if the clip dimension doesn't match up, I've already got all mine selected because I already tested this, and then you right click and you click set to frame size, and you'll see it go and it fits in the frame. All editing really is just problem solving. But what I like to do is I like to go ahead and just solve as many problems as I can up front. That way it clears my mind, it clears the space, and it sets me up for success in the best way possible. And then that way I can throw the music down, I can create the story, and then just let it ride. You can also see over here I made some new sequences. I'm gonna go ahead and cull in a minute, skim through and scrub as quick as I can because time is money. And I made different sequences. I have an action, I have a drone, I have lifestyle and fun, I have the recap, which is going to be the actual edit, and then I have sponsors and plates. And what a plate is just a shot where it's either steady, locked off, still, blurry, whatever, where they can throw any logos on. All I'm hired to do is to make the edit, but in case someone else wants to do more with this project file, it helps them in the long run. And you could be thinking, why would you do that extra step? Well, I'm gonna go through and cull the footage. A little goes a long way, and who knows, maybe I get a call back from these people from this project of, we love the edit, or you know, maybe they hate the edit, but then they get the project file and they're like, wow, this guy did so much work for us, we need to call him back. So, you know, it's just setting yourself up for success and setting up others for success. A little goes a long way. I was sent via email and Dropbox some assets, and so I went ahead and made an assets folder. I have yet to drag and drop them into my Premiere Pro. Again, you can see that the star is lit up over here, so I need to control save before anything goes wrong and before Premiere crashes because it's Premiere. So I'm gonna go ahead and just drag and drop my assets in. Boom, there we go, there's the star again. I go ahead and automatically just hit Control S. We're saved, we're good, we're locked in. So from here, I want to go ahead and put the music down. I want to go ahead and make the 60-second cut of the music that I'm going to use, and then that way I can get inspired. I can say, I want a drone shot here, I want an action shot here, I want a lifestyle shot here. That's just the way that I prefer editing. I feed off of the energy of the music and the vibe and what comes to mind. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to make sure that I go ahead and click. So I want to click the bottom sequence, and then I want to go ahead and click recap in my sequence finder. Boom, there's the recap right there. Then I'm going to go over to the assets. I'm going to drag and drop both of these songs in. I dragged the music to the 4th layer, that way I could stack natural audio or voiceover or sound design above it. It really just depends on your project and how many of those layers you want to do. You can get lost really quick, so just be organized and prepared. It is day 2 on this freelance editing project. Last time you guys saw me, I was just beginning culling my footage. You can see that I still have my culling timeline or my cutting timeline out. You can see it's cutting JB. And again, I do this because it's easier for me just to drag and drop into each timeline. So in my cull all, I have all of the footage, and it's just easy to drag and drop down into the timeline. Now I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hit Control Z. Don't want to do that. Again, I wanted to show you real quick on how I do cull all my footage. So I've got my lifestyle and fun, and you can see these are just fun clips of the crowd enjoying their time at Wakefest. You've got sponsors and plates. A plate is just a shot where you can put a logo, or maybe there already is a logo in. Maybe that's that blurred out shot at the end of a commercial that you would see. It's just nice to have this there. I'm not necessarily going to use any because they sent me the preloaded graphics as the intro and the outro, but I do have some sponsor shots in there that did need to be thrown in throughout the entirety of the edit. So that's where this sequence comes into play. And you got a nice shot of a Malibu boat, the Malibu buoy, some flags, some water. So this is a great example of what a plate would look like, and you would just slap a logo right on there. Maybe throw a little bit of a blur on the actual shot. So yeah, and then we got the drone footage. This DJI footage, see, you can see it went yellow. This footage slowed down my computer unbelievable amount. I don't normally edit with that much drone footage. When I've shot drones in the past, it's literally only for just a handful of shots, or I've been using some Inspire 1 or Inspire 2 footage that chops a lot easier in Premiere. So I'm not really going to show you that because I don't want to slow down the computer. This is the bulk of the shots, you know, the action shots, the actual competition. And so this was mostly from the day 1 event. It was a 2-day event. So there's just a ton of riding. I went and culled through. This is what took me the longest, finding those great shots of these athletes that we could use in the actual edit. Obviously there was a lot more shots in here than I actually used in the edit, but again, I would rather have too many shots than too less of shots, where if I got into the edit and I had 30 seconds left in the timeline and I didn't have any shots to pull from, that's kind of a mistake. Whereas I got down to 10 seconds of the timeline and I was like, oh my gosh, I still have 50 shots I could use. And it just opens the creativity doors to allow you to do what you can do best. I like to have a sequence just for the fails and the falls, because you never know, one, when you might use a crash reel. Two, it's really nice to have these shots because maybe the athlete does the same trick twice in 2 different moments, and so maybe one camera picked it up, maybe one didn't, vice versa, maybe they both did, or maybe the drone picked it up, and then that way you can actually just do a little movie magic and just splice it in and no one will know. The third reason is also, you know, in those in-between moments, maybe you just need a shortcut. Maybe you don't need the actual full length of the entire run. It's really nice to have all those shots because maybe all you really need is just 1 second of a tweaked out trick or just a really boned out grab. You never know what you're gonna need, and so it's really nice to have those in a separate sequence because, you know, you don't want to mix up the crashes and the clean landings. And so that's one way I like to do it, is just putting them in different sequences. On bigger projects, I like to actually color label them. I prefer to color code and color label per athlete, and then sometimes within those color labels, instead of doing the sequences, I would do the lifestyle, the action, and color code or color label the shots that way instead of doing the sequences. But because we were looking only for a 60 to 90 second recap, and I'm not working with any of these athletes directly, this is just how I chose to do it this time. Next up, we have the awards. That's pretty self-explanatory. You know, they had some cash giveaway, and so I wanted to make sure that I had a timeline for the awards. That way, if I needed to pull a specific shot from that moment, I knew exactly where I was going to go to. We got the Groms. If you don't know what a Grom is, it's a kid, and so we've got a few shots of that. That was an important thing that they wanted to highlight in the recap, was that they're promoting, you know, wakeboarding for this younger generation of Groms, and so, you know, much respect to them. They're out throwing down. We want to show them some love, and so it was really cool getting to throw some shots in for them. 90% of the action of those tricks, of those wakeboarding, came from behind the boat. But they had 2 cameras, and so one of the camera operators was shooting from the side, and so I just labeled it side action. And it was tough because the time code wasn't in sync, so I couldn't actually match the 2 in case the moments went down at the same time. But I had a good feel. I kind of knew where those shots were, so I synced them up when I could. It was nice having this sequence because, you know, maybe I needed an action shot or just a wide, but I just used a behind the camera action shot, so I can't use another one because that just doesn't really look that good. And so, you know, splicing it together, I needed to pull something, and so it was really nice having these side action shots because it was just another dynamic to the film. You know, those extra little shots go a long way. So again, I liked having this side action sequence because it was really nice to be able to break up the monotony of just all those shots coming from behind the boat. You know, when I was editing, that's when I'm, you know, the most creative. I've got to have a timeline down. I've got to know the story, and from there you can start chipping away at what you actually want to tell and how you want to edit. And so for me, having that side action shots really helped me out because I knew, I was like, okay, I don't want a drone shot, I don't want a mega wide, I don't want a lifestyle, maybe I want a blend of the two, of a lifestyle and an action shot. Those side action shots were amazing to use because they just bridged the gap and they told the story in its fullness. They had a night party. It was just a bunch of dancing, a band playing, some people hanging out and partying. I didn't really use that in the edit and the recap. I'm waiting to hear back if they want me to use any of that footage at all. If so, I have a sequence ready to go and I can just pull, drag and drop, and we're good to go. The last of the sequences is a shootout. They had a $50,000 shootout for these athletes. I believe they had to do the best 4 or 5 tricks in one run without crashing, and all your tricks had to be clean. I wanted to make sure I had a sequence specifically with those shots in case, 1, they came back and they were like, we need more shootout footage. Boom, I got it. There we go. 2, those were actually the best shots of the day. So it was really nice being able to pull some of those shots and throw them into the edit and know, I think this athlete is going to be stoked if they see their shot in there because it came from the shootout and they were going big, they were going for broke, and it's just a good clip of them in the edit. I appreciate you guys watching this video series. Please let me know down in the comments what you would like to see in the future. Let me know if this helped or didn't help. I really appreciate that you guys spent your time watching this video, and I hope you learned something. Leave a comment below on what you learned or what you would like to learn. Leave a thumbs up if you liked the video, and maybe subscribe and tell your friends because your boy could use some help. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Peace. The first is creative criticism. You gotta be open for feedback. I remember early on in my career, anytime just even the most minor note was sent to me, I got really insecure about my work. I thought, oh my gosh, they don't love the film, or oh my gosh, I'm never gonna get a call back. But in reality, when you can actually internalize those notes and that feedback that they have and execute their vision, because this is not your project. I'm out of my mind, my brain out of control. I'm a blowing a beat like you powder your nose.